The stars were quiet tonight as they had been for thousands of years. In the Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Union, representatives from 47 different species gathered for their monthly assembly. The chamber was massive, built from crystal and metal that seemed to glow with its own light. Each species had their own section, designed to accommodate their unique biology. Some breathed oxygen, others methane. Some stood on legs, others floated in specialized tanks. Elder Coordinator Vess stood at the central podium. She was a Queenar, one of the oldest species in the galaxy. Her people had been exploring space when most other species were still learning to make fire. Her skin was pale blue, almost translucent, and her 3 eyes could see far beyond the normal spectrum of light. She had served on the council for 200 years, and in all that time she had never broken a single protocol. Today's meeting was routine. Trade disputes, border negotiations, scientific exchanges, the usual business of keeping 47 different species working together in relative peace. But as Vess reviewed the agenda, one item caught her attention. A proposal from the Velkari Empire to expand their exploration rights into Sector 793. Vess felt her heart skip a beat. Sector 793 was dangerously close to the restricted zone. She quickly pulled up the star charts on her display and confirmed her fears. The Velkari wanted to explore within 2 light years of Sol system. The proposal is denied, Vess announced, her voice carrying through the translation devices worn by every delegate. Ambassador Zrath of the Velkari Empire rose from his seat. He was massive, nearly 3 meters tall, covered in dark red scales that looked like armor. His people were warriors, proud and strong, with a history of conquest that made other species nervous. On what grounds? He demanded. Protocol 7, Vess replied simply. A murmur ran through the chamber. Protocol 7 was old, one of the founding laws of the Galactic Union. Most of the younger species didn't even know what it meant. They just knew that certain areas of space were marked in red on every official map, and ships were not allowed to enter those zones. Zrath's eyes narrowed. Protocol 7 is a relic, an outdated rule created by paranoid ancestors who saw threats everywhere. We have mapped 90% of the galaxy. We have encountered hundreds of species. This restriction serves no purpose except to limit exploration and growth. Vess remained calm. The protocol exists for good reason. The restriction will remain in place. What reason? Zrath challenged. I have read every file available on Protocol 7. All I find are vague warnings and deleted records. If there is a genuine threat in that region of space, the Council has a duty to explain it. Otherwise, you are simply enforcing superstition. Other delegates began to speak, some supporting Zrath's position, others defending the protocol. The chamber erupted into argument. Vess raised her hand and the room fell silent. She looked at Zrath for a long moment, considering how much to reveal. Very well, she said finally. You want to know why Protocol 7 exists? I will tell you. 50,000 years ago, the Galactic Union was different. It was called the First Alliance, and it included species that no longer exist. One of those species, the Krell, were explorers. They were curious and brave, always pushing into unknown regions of space. Vess activated a holographic display. An ancient star chart appeared showing a small yellow star in an unremarkable spiral arm of the galaxy. The Krell discovered this system. They found a planet, the third one from the star. It was a beautiful world, covered in water and life, and on that world lived a species that had just discovered agriculture. The Krell called them the Young Ones. Humans, someone whispered. Vess nodded. The Krell were peaceful. They believed in gentle observation, in letting species develop naturally. They placed monitoring stations in the outer system and watched. For 2,000 years, they watched. They saw the humans grow. They saw them build cities, create art, develop mathematics and science. The Krell were delighted. Here was a species with such potential. The hologram changed, showing images of early human civilizations, pyramids, temples, sailing ships. But the Krell also noticed something troubling. The humans were violent. They fought constantly. They created weapons with the same creativity they used to create art. They waged wars that killed millions of their own people. The Krell debated whether to intervene to teach the humans peaceful ways. Zrath snorted. So they were primitives who fought among themselves. Most species go through such phases. What does this have to do with Protocol 7? Vess's expression darkened. The Krell decided to wait and observe further. Then 3,000 years ago, everything changed. The humans developed nuclear weapons. The Krell were horrified. They watched as humans built arsenals capable of destroying their entire planet multiple times over. Wars were fought with these weapons. Cities vanished in fire. The hologram showed mushroom clouds rising over ancient cities. The Krell decided to intervene. They sent a small delegation to Earth, planning to reveal themselves and guide humanity toward peace. The delegation never returned. Silence filled the chamber. Srath leaned forward. What happened to them? We don't know the details, Vess admitted. The last transmission from the Krell ship was fragmentary. They had made contact with human governments. They had offered technology and knowledge. And then the signal cut off. When the Krell sent a rescue mission, they found their ship had been dismantled. Every piece of technology had been taken apart and studied. The crew was gone. The humans killed them, Srath said flatly. The Krell believed so. They sent warnings to the other species of the First Alliance. Stay away from the humans. Do not contact them. Do not provoke them. The humans are too dangerous, too unpredictable. The First Alliance agreed and established the restricted zone. Vess changed the hologram again. This time it showed human space as it existed now. Dozens of colony worlds, space stations, mining operations. That was 3,000 years ago. Today, humans have spread to 20 star systems. They have developed faster than light travel on their own. They have built weapons we cannot fully comprehend, and they still don't know we exist. Because we hide from them like cowards, Zrath said with contempt. Because we are wise, Vess corrected. 600 years ago, the Mordani Collective ignored the warnings. They sent ships into human space, planning to claim some of the outer colonies. 3 fleets entered the restricted zone. None returned. The humans never even acknowledged the encounter. We found wreckage scattered across light years. Whatever the humans did to the Mordani, it was efficient and absolute. The chamber was completely silent now. Even the more aggressive species looked uncomfortable. Vess continued, Protocol 7 is not superstition. It is survival. The humans are not evil. They are not monsters. But they are dangerous in ways most species cannot understand. They evolved on a death world where everything tried to kill them. They survived by being more adaptable, more creative, and more ruthlessly effective than any threat they faced. Zrath sat back down, his expression thoughtful. So we simply avoid them forever? Let them expand unchecked? We monitor them, Vess said. We hope that one day they will be ready for contact. But until that day comes, we do not provoke them. We do not challenge them. We do not break Protocol 7. The vote was called. Zrath's proposal was rejected by a wide margin. The Velkari would not be allowed to explore near human space. As the meeting adjourned, Zrath left the chamber in silence. But those who knew him could see the anger in his eyes. He did not accept the decision. He did not believe the warnings. And in the weeks that followed, Zrath began making his own plans. 3 months had passed since the council meeting, and Ambassador Zrath had not forgotten the rejection. He stood in the war room of the Velkari command ship, studying holographic displays of human space. Around him stood 5 generals, the highest-ranking military officers in the Velkari Empire. Each of them had conquered dozens of worlds in the name of their people. General Corvin was the first to speak. He was older than Zrath. His scales faded to a dull brown with age, but his mind was sharp. You truly believe the Council's warnings are exaggerated? Zrath gestured at the display. Look at the evidence yourself. The humans have explored 20 star systems in 200 years. That's slow, cautious expansion. They build colonies, mining stations, research outposts. They are not aggressive conquerors. They are settlers. What about the Mordani incident? Another general asked. Ancient history, Zrath dismissed. 600 years ago. We don't even have reliable records of what happened. The Mordani could have encountered any number of threats in that region of space. Radiation storms, spatial anomalies, rogue asteroids. To blame the humans is pure speculation. General Corvin studied the human colonies carefully. Their technology appears comparable to ours, perhaps slightly behind in some areas. Their ships are smaller than ours, their weapons less powerful. If the Council's fears were justified, wouldn't we see evidence of this supposed danger? Zrath nodded eagerly. Exactly my point. The humans are being treated like mythical monsters when they are simply another species. The Council uses Protocol 7 to control exploration, to limit which species can expand and which cannot. It's political manipulation disguised as safety. The generals exchanged glances. The Velkari Empire had been expanding steadily for 600 years, but lately they had been running into restrictions. Other species claimed territories first, established colonies in resource-rich systems. The Velkari were being boxed in, and they knew it. The restricted zone around human space represented thousands of unclaimed systems, worlds rich in minerals and perfect for colonization. "What do you propose?" Horvin asked. Zrath smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "We send an expeditionary force to the edge of human space, not to attack but to observe. We gather real intelligence about their capabilities. If they are as harmless as I believe, we return to the Council with proof that Protocol 7 should be abolished. If they show any aggression, we defend ourselves and demonstrate that the Velkari Empire does not bow to phantom threats. And if the Council objects?" Another general questioned. "The Council cannot stop us from exploring unclaimed space," Zrath argued. "Protocol 7 is a recommendation, not a law we agreed to follow. The Velkari Empire is sovereign. We make our own decisions." The discussion continued for hours. Some generals were cautious, others eager. By the end of the meeting, a decision was reached. 3 battle fleets would be deployed to the human frontier, not enough to start a war, but enough to defend themselves if needed. The mission would be presented as routine exploration. Nothing more. Across the galaxy, in a modest apartment on Earth, Jake Morrison was packing for his next assignment. He was a colony ship captain, experienced and well-respected in the Earth Space Service. His next mission was to lead a supply run to Proxima Centauri, humanity's largest outer colony. Jake's wife, Linda, helped him pack. She was quiet tonight, and Jake knew why. Every time he left for a mission, there was a chance he wouldn't come back. Space was dangerous. Equipment failed, asteroids struck ships, radiation could kill a crew before they even knew they were exposed. "It's just a supply run," Jake said, trying to sound confident. "I'll be gone 3 months, maybe 4. The Frontier is a good ship. We'll be fine." Linda smiled, but worry showed in her eyes. "I know. I just wish these colonies weren't so far away. Proxima is 4 light years from Earth. If something goes wrong, help can't reach you quickly." Jake pulled her into a hug. "That's why we're careful. That's why we train. The colony needs medical supplies, food processors, and manufacturing equipment. It's important work." "I know," Linda said quietly. "Just come home safe." 2 weeks later, Jake and his crew departed Earth aboard the Frontier. The ship wasn't military, but like all human vessels, it was armed. Humanity had been exploring space for 2 centuries, and they had learned hard lessons. Asteroid impacts, solar flares, equipment failures. Space tried to kill you in 1,000 different ways. Every human ship carried weapons, armor, and defensive systems. Not because humans were paranoid, but because they were practical. The journey to Proxima Centauri took 8 days through hyperspace. When the Frontier dropped back into normal space at the edge of the system, Jake immediately checked his sensors. It was standard procedure. Make sure the area was clear before approaching the colony. The sensor display lit up with contacts. "Lots of them, what the hell?" Jake muttered, leaning closer to his screen. His co-pilot, Peter Grant, was already running analysis programs. "I'm reading 43 contacts," Peter said, his voice tense. "They're big, Jake, really big. And they're not ours." Jake felt his stomach drop. In 200 years of human space exploration, they had never encountered another intelligent species. There had been debates, speculation, entire research institutes dedicated to the question of alien life, and now apparently the answer had arrived at Proxima Centauri. "Are they communicating?" Jake asked. "Picking up transmissions now," the communications officer reported. "Multiple languages, none of them human. Wait, they're broadcasting in English now." A voice filled the bridge, deep and grating, translated by computer algorithms. "Attention, human vessels. The system is now claimed by the Velkari Empire. You have 1 cycle of your homeworld to evacuate all personnel and equipment. Failure to comply will result in the destruction of your colony and all ships." The bridge was silent. Jake stared at the sensor display, watching the alien fleet move into formation around Proxima Centauri. The colony was home to 50,000 people. Families, children, scientists, engineers. They had spent decades building a life there. "Get me a secure channel to Earth," Jake ordered. "Maximum encryption. They need to know what's happening." While the communications officer worked, Jake studied the alien ships. They were huge, each one at least 3 times the size of the Frontier. Their weapons were powered up, shields active. This wasn't a peaceful contact. This was an invasion. Peter looked at Jake. What do we do? Jake took a deep breath. We warn the colony. We get everyone to shelters, and we wait for Earth to respond. On Proxima Centauri, Colony Director Helen Carter received the warning from the frontier with disbelief that quickly turned to cold determination. She activated the colony's emergency protocols, ordering all civilians to underground shelters. The colony had defensive systems, railguns, and missile batteries built into the infrastructure. They had been installed years ago, just in case. No one had really believed they would ever be used. Helen sent her own message to Earth, adding her voice to Jake's warning. Then she looked at her defense coordinator, a former military officer named Gary Stone. How long can we hold out? She asked. Gary studied his tactical displays. Against a fleet that size? Maybe a few hours if we're lucky, but ma'am, we're not defenseless. Every mining laser on this colony can be weaponized. Every cargo shuttle has maneuvering thrusters that can be overloaded. And we've got 5,000 people here who know how to fight. Helen nodded slowly. Humanity had spread to the stars hoping to find peace, hoping to build new worlds. But they had always known that hope wasn't enough. They had prepared for this possibility. Send a message to that fleet, Helen ordered. Tell them we reject their claim. Tell them Proxima Centauri is human territory and we will defend it. Gary hesitated. Ma'am, that's basically a declaration of war. Helen's expression hardened. They declared war when they threatened our people. We're just making sure they understand who they're dealing with. The message was sent. Aboard the lead Velkari ship, Zrath read the human response and laughed. These primitives actually thought they could resist. He ordered his fleet to advance. It was time to teach humanity their place in the galaxy. But Zrath had made a fatal mistake. He had assumed that because humans seemed peaceful, they were weak. He had confused caution with fear, and he was about to learn why the Galactic Union had created Protocol 7 in the first place. The emergency session of the United Earth government convened within 2 hours of receiving the first messages from Proxima Centauri. President Richard Hayes sat at the head of the table, surrounded by military advisors, intelligence chiefs, and diplomatic experts. The room was deep underground, built to survive even nuclear strikes. It had been constructed 150 years ago during Earth's unification wars. No one had expected to use it for an alien invasion. Admiral Lisa Grant stood at the main display, showing real-time data from Proxima Centauri. The information was 8 days old by the time it reached Earth, traveling at light speed, but it was the best they had. She pointed at the alien fleet positions. 3 distinct groups, she explained. 43 ships total, each one massive. Our analysis suggests these are warships heavily armed and shielded. They've positioned themselves in orbit around Proxima Centauri and issued an ultimatum. 24 hours to evacuate or face destruction. President Hayes leaned forward. How long until that deadline? Based on when the message was sent, approximately 6 hours from now, Lisa said quietly. But remember, we're seeing this 8 days after it happened. Whatever is going to happen at Proxima has already happened. We won't know the outcome for another 8 days. The room fell silent. Everyone understood the terrible math of interstellar distances. By the time Earth learned about the invasion, Proxima Centauri might already be destroyed. 50,000 people could be dead and Earth wouldn't know for over a week. Secretary of Defense Walter Kim spoke up. What forces do we have in that region? Lisa changed the display. The Defiance and her battle group were conducting exercises in the Barnard star system, 2 light years from Proxima. That's 12 ships total, including the Defiance herself. If they received the warning, they could reach Proxima in 3 days. Did they receive it? Hayes asked. We don't know yet, sir. But protocol dictates that any colony under threat immediately broadcasts warnings to all nearby military assets. Captain Grant would have received the message. Lisa paused. Kate Grant is my sister, sir. If there's a fight at Proxima, she'll be in it. Hayes nodded slowly. Kate Grant was a decorated officer, one of Earth's best tactical commanders. If anyone could buy time for Proxima, it was her. But 12 ships against 43 were terrible odds. What about reinforcements? Hayes asked. How quickly can we get more ships to Proxima? The nearest battle group is at Mars, Lisa replied. That's Admiral Chen's fleet, 32 ships. They can be ready to jump within 8 hours and reach Proxima in 10 days. She paused. Sir, we need to make a decision now. Do we send everything we have, or do we hold forces back to defend Earth? It was the question everyone had been dreading. If this alien species could send 43 ships to Proxima, how many more did they have? What if this was just a scouting force? Earth needed to be protected. Hayes looked around the table at his advisors. Some argued for caution, for keeping Earth's defenses strong. Others demanded immediate action, insisting that humanity could not abandon Proxima. The debate continued for 20 minutes before Hayes raised his hand for silence. "Send Admiral Chen's fleet to Proxima immediately," he ordered. "Prepare every available ship for deployment. We will defend our people." He turned to Lisa. "Admiral, you have full authority to coordinate our military response." "Do whatever is necessary," Lisa saluted. "Yes, sir. What about communication with these aliens? Should we attempt diplomacy?" Hayes considered this. "Prepare a message. Make it clear that Proxima Centauri is human territory, and any attack will be considered an act of war. Offer them one chance to withdraw peacefully. But Admiral, make sure our ships are ready. I don't think these aliens came all this way to talk." As the meeting broke up, Hayes pulled Lisa aside. "Your sister is at Proxima. Are you going to be able to stay objective?" Lisa met his eyes steadily. Kate knew the risks when she joined the service. "So did I. I'll do my job, sir. But I'm also going to make sure these aliens regret threatening human lives." Hayes nodded. "Good. Because I have a feeling this is just the beginning." Across the solar system, the response was immediate. Earth's orbital shipyards went to maximum production. Crews were recalled from leave. Ships that had been in maintenance were rushed back into service. The civilian population watched news broadcasts with growing fear and anger. For 200 years, humans had wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, and it had come with threats and ultimatums. Admiral Chen received his orders while his fleet was conducting drills near Mars. He was a veteran officer, 60 years old, with gray hair and eyes that had seen too many battles during Earth's unification period. He had fought in the South Pacific War, the Arctic conflict, and the orbital campaigns. He knew war, and he knew what these orders meant. "All ships prepare for immediate jump to Proxima Centauri," he broadcast to his fleet. "We have human civilians under threat. We will respond with overwhelming force. This is not a drill." His flag captain, a young officer named Steve Palmer, looked worried. "Sir, we're jumping into an unknown situation against an unknown enemy. Shouldn't we gather more intelligence first?" Chen shook his head. "We have all the intelligence we need, Captain. An enemy fleet is threatening human lives. We don't negotiate with threats. We eliminate them." Steve hesitated. "Sir, what if they're stronger than us? What if this is a fight we can't win?" Chen smiled grimly. "Then we make them pay for every inch of space. We make them regret ever hearing the word human, and we buy time for Earth to send reinforcements." He paused. "Captain, humanity has survived ice ages, plagues, and wars that nearly destroyed our entire species. We didn't survive by being the strongest. We survived by refusing to quit, by making victory too expensive for our enemies. These aliens are about to learn that lesson." The fleet jumped to hyperspace, racing toward Proxima at faster-than-light speeds. Behind them, more ships were being prepared. Earth's industrial capacity, built up over 2 centuries of space colonization, was shifting to war production. Factories that made fusion reactors were retooled to build weapons. Civilian shipyards began constructing military vessels. Mining operations throughout the solar system were redirected to provide raw materials. On Earth, in a small town in California, Linda Morrison watched the news with growing dread. Jake's ship had been scheduled to arrive at Proxima just before the alien fleet appeared. She had no way of knowing if he was safe, if he had escaped, or if he was caught in whatever battle might be happening light years away. She wasn't alone in her fear. Across Earth and every human colony, millions of families waited for news. Parents worried about children stationed at Proxima. Children wondered if their parents would come home. The revelation that humanity was not alone in the universe should have been a moment of celebration. Instead, it was turning into humanity's greatest test. In the military command center deep under Geneva, Lisa Grant coordinated the response. She had 4 screens showing different pieces of the puzzle: fleet positions, supply lines, defensive systems, intelligence reports. Her staff worked around the clock, preparing for every possibility. A junior officer approached her desk. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Union. They're asking to speak with our government." Lisa looked up sharply. "The Galactic Union? Who are they?" "Unknown, ma'am. But the message says they represent 47 different species. They want to discuss Protocol 7. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. 47 species. Humanity had just discovered they weren't alone, and apparently the universe was far more crowded than anyone had imagined. And something called Protocol 7 involved humans. Route the message to President Hayes, she ordered, and get our best linguists and diplomats ready. We need to know what we're dealing with. But even as diplomatic channels opened, Lisa kept her focus on Proxima Centauri. Somewhere out there, 8 days away at light speed, a battle might already be raging. Her sister might be fighting for her life. 50,000 civilians might be under attack. And when news of that battle finally reached Earth, Lisa knew the response would be immediate and absolute. Humanity had learned long ago that the universe was a dangerous place. They had prepared for this moment. Now it was time to show these Velkari exactly what that preparation meant. Captain Kate Grant received the distress call from Proxima Centauri while her battle group was finishing exercises near Barnard's Star. She read the message twice, making sure she understood correctly. An alien fleet had appeared at Proxima and issued an ultimatum. Evacuate or die. Kate had been in the military for 15 years. She had commanded the UCSS Defiance for 3 of those years. She was trained, experienced, and prepared for combat. But she had never imagined her first battle would be against an alien species humanity didn't even know existed. All ships battle stations, she ordered. Plot a jump to Proxima Centauri, maximum speed. We leave in 30 minutes. Her executive officer, Commander Ryan Foster, looked at the tactical display showing the Velkari fleet. Ma'am, we're outnumbered almost 4 to 1. Shouldn't we wait for reinforcements? Kate shook her head. 50,000 civilians are at Proxima. If we wait, they die. We go now. She paused, then added quietly, besides, my niece lives on that colony. She's 8 years old. I'm not leaving her to die while we play it safe. The battle group jumped to hyperspace, racing toward Proxima at speeds that bent the laws of physics. Kate used the travel time to study everything they knew about the Velkari fleet. The data was limited, just sensor readings from the frontier and the colony itself, but it painted a concerning picture. The Velkari ships were big, heavily armed, and their shields were strong. They have superior firepower, Ryan observed. And their shields can probably take more punishment than ours. Kate smiled slightly. Probably. But they don't know how we fight. That's our advantage. She pulled up tactical plans on her display. The Velkari are positioning their ships in standard orbital formations. They're expecting a conventional battle, ship against ship. We're not going to give them one. She gathered her senior officers for a briefing. The faces on the screen represented the best commanders in the Earth Space Service. Each of them knew the odds. None of them hesitated. Here's the situation, Kate began. The Velkari have numbers and firepower. But they've made mistakes. First, they're clustered too close together in orbit. That makes them vulnerable to area effect weapons. Second, they've ignored the outer system. They think the battle will happen at the colony. We're going to prove them wrong. She highlighted several points on the star map. Proxima Centauri has 3 asteroid belts and a debris field left over from a failed planet formation. Over the past 20 years, our colony has seeded those areas with mining equipment, observation stations, and emergency supply caches. The Velkari don't know those resources are there. Commander Sarah Mitchell of the destroyer Vigilance spoke up. You want to use the asteroids for cover? Better than that, Kate replied. 6 months ago, Proxima received a shipment of terraforming equipment. That shipment included 400 fusion charges designed for breaking up asteroids. Each charge has a yield of 50 megatons. The colony never installed them because the terraforming schedule was delayed. She smiled coldly. But they're still there, sitting in storage on various asteroids throughout the system. Understanding dawned on the faces of her officers. Captain George Miller of the cruiser. Steadfast whistled softly. You want to turn the asteroids into weapons? Exactly, Kate confirmed. We drop out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. We send teams to retrieve and activate those fusion charges. Then we use tractor beams to move key asteroids into the Velkari fleet's path. When they're in position, we detonate. That's insane, someone muttered. That's creative, Kate corrected. The Velkari are expecting a stand-up fight. We're going to give them chaos. She looked at each officer in turn. I know the odds. I know what we're facing. But those people at Proxima are counting on us. We don't have to destroy the entire Velkari fleet. We just have to hurt them badly enough that they retreat or hesitate. Then reinforcements from Earth can finish the job. Ryan pulled up a timeline. The Velkari ultimatum expires in 6 hours. We'll arrive in 3. That gives us time to prepare. Kate nodded. I want every ship ready for combat the moment we drop out of hyperspace. Shields at maximum, weapons charged. This is going to be fast and violent. The Velkari won't know what hit them. The fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system exactly 3 hours later. Kate immediately deployed reconnaissance drones, getting a clear picture of the tactical situation. The Velkari fleet was exactly where the initial reports had indicated, in high orbit around the colony world. They had not moved, had not adjusted their positions. They were confident, waiting for the humans to surrender. Arrogant, Kate muttered. Then she opened a channel to all ships. All teams execute the plan. Weapons teams to the asteroids. Engineering, I want those fusion charges armed and ready in 2 hours. Helm, position us in the outer belt. Use the asteroids for cover. The human ships scattered, each moving to predetermined positions. They were smaller than the Velkari vessels, more maneuverable. They slipped between asteroids, using the natural cover to hide their presence. Teams in armored suits jumped from ship to asteroid, racing to retrieve the stored fusion charges. On the Defiance, Kate watched the clock. Every minute counted. She knew that eventually the Velkari would detect their presence, but hopefully by then it would be too late. On Proxima Centauri, Helen Carter received a coded message from the Defiance. Help had arrived. The military was preparing a response. She was ordered to keep the Velkari distracted to buy time. Helen smiled grimly and opened a channel to the alien fleet. This is Colony Director Helen Carter, she broadcast. We have considered your ultimatum. We need more time to evacuate our people. 24 hours is not enough. We have children, elderly, people in medical facilities. Give us 72 hours and we will leave peacefully. Aboard the lead Velkari ship, Zrath received the message with satisfaction. The humans were weakening, preparing to surrender. He considered the request. 3 days instead of 1. It made no real difference. His fleet was in position. The system was secured. Granted, he replied. You have 72 hours. But understand, human. This system now belongs to the Velkari Empire. You are being allowed to leave as an act of mercy. Be grateful. Helen closed the channel and allowed herself a small smile. 72 hours. That gave Earth's military plenty of time to prepare. She looked at Gary, her defense coordinator. Get our people into the shelters, she ordered. When the shooting starts, I want everyone underground. Back in the asteroid belt, Kate's teams worked frantically. The fusion charges were old but functional. Each one was carefully attached to a selected asteroid, positioned for maximum effect. The asteroids themselves ranged in size from a few hundred meters to several kilometers across. Individually, they were dangerous. Accelerated to high speed and detonated in the middle of a fleet, they would be devastating. 2 hours later, Kate received confirmation. All charges were in place. The asteroids were ready. Now came the hard part. Tractor beams lock on to designated asteroids, Kate ordered. On my mark, we're going to give them a gentle push toward the Velkari fleet. Keep it subtle. We don't want them noticing until it's too late. The human ships engaged their tractor beams, invisible fields of force that could push or pull objects in space. Slowly, carefully, they began moving the asteroids out of the belt and toward the inner system. To the Velkari sensors, it would look like natural drift, small rocks moved by gravitational fluctuations. Kate watched the plot, tracking both the asteroids and the Velkari fleet. The aliens still hadn't moved, hadn't shown any sign of detecting the threat. They were so confident in their superiority that they weren't even running active scans of the outer system. 30 minutes until impact range, Ryan reported. Kate nodded. All ships prepare for combat. The moment those asteroids reach detonation range, we light them up. Then we hit the Velkari with everything we have. She paused. This is going to get rough. But remember, we're fighting for our people. We're fighting for our home. Make every shot count. The minutes ticked by. The asteroids drifted closer, accelerating gradually. The Velkari fleet remained in position, unaware of the doom approaching. And on the Defiance, Kate Grant prepared to show these aliens exactly what humanity was capable of when pushed to fight. The asteroids had been drifting toward the Velkari fleet for 28 minutes, when the first alarm sounded on Zrath's flagship. A sensor technician noticed the irregular movement of several large objects approaching from the outer system. At first he dismissed it as natural phenomena. Space was full of rocks and debris, but something about the trajectory made him look closer. "Commander's wrath," the technician called out nervously. "I'm detecting multiple large objects approaching our position. They appear to be asteroids, but their course is too precise to be natural." Zrath walked over to the sensor station, his expression annoyed. "Asteroids? The humans are throwing rocks at us? Sir, some of these objects are several kilometers across. If they impact at current velocity, they could damage our ships." Zrath snorted. "Then destroy them. Use point defense systems. Show these primitives that such crude tactics are useless against Velkari shields and weapons." The order went out to the fleet. Point defense batteries designed to shoot down missiles and fighters turned toward the approaching asteroids. Laser beams and plasma bursts struck the rocky objects, breaking them apart, vaporizing chunks of stone and metal. The Velkari crews barely paid attention. It was target practice, nothing more. That was when Kate gave the order. "Detonate all charges now." 400 fusion devices, each with a yield of 50 megatons, exploded simultaneously. The asteroids that the Velkari had been casually destroying suddenly became small suns. Nuclear fire erupted across a volume of space 50,000 kilometers across. The light was visible from the planet below, a series of brilliant flashes that turned night into day. The Velkari fleet was caught completely by surprise. Their shields were designed to stop weapons fire, directed energy attacks, kinetic projectiles. They were not designed to withstand multiple nuclear explosions at close range. The electromagnetic pulse from the detonation scrambled sensors and communications. The heat and radiation washed over the ships like a wave. 3 Velkari cruisers positioned closest to the detonations simply ceased to exist. Their shields collapsed under the assault and the nuclear fire consumed them. 5 more ships were crippled, their shields down, their hulls breached, atmosphere venting into space. Strath was thrown from his feet as his flagship shuddered under the assault. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. Damage reports flooded in from every section. He pulled himself up, his mind racing. This couldn't be happening. Humans didn't fight like this. They were supposed to be peaceful, civilized. They weren't supposed to weaponize asteroids and turn them into nuclear mines. "Return fire," he screamed. "Find those human ships and destroy them." But the human ships were already moving. They had been positioned behind the asteroids, using them as shields. Now, with the Velkari fleet in disarray, Kate's battle group struck like sharks smelling blood. The Defiance led the charge, her railguns firing tungsten slugs at a significant fraction of light speed. The projectiles crossed the distance in seconds, punching through weakened Velkari shields and tearing into hull plating. Each slug carried the kinetic energy of a small nuclear bomb, and the Defiance fired them as fast as her systems could cycle. "Target their command ships," Kate ordered. "I want their leadership dead or scattered. Make them unable to coordinate." The other human ships followed the Defiance's lead. The cruiser Steadfast launched a spread of nuclear-tipped missiles, each one independently guided and nearly impossible to intercept. The destroyer Vigilant used her speed to dart between Velkari formations, firing plasma torpedoes at point-blank range before dancing away. The Velkari tried to respond, but their formation was broken. Ships that had been clustered together for mutual support were now scattered, some blind from sensor damage, others struggling with power failures. When they did manage to return fire, their shots were poorly coordinated. A Velkari battleship managed to lock onto the destroyer Lightning and fired its main weapon, a particle beam that could cut through a planet's crust. The beam struck the Lightning's shields and penetrated, burning through armor and into the ship's interior. The destroyer's fusion reactor went critical, and the ship exploded in a ball of fire. Kate watched the Lightning die and felt cold fury settle over her. "All ships concentrate fire on that battleship. I want it dead." 6 human ships turned their weapons on the Velkari battleship. Railgun slugs, missiles, plasma torpedoes, and laser beams all struck within seconds of each other. The battleship's shields held for almost 10 seconds under the concentrated assault, then collapsed. The follow-up strikes tore the massive ship apart, breaking it into pieces that tumbled through space. The battle raged for 2 hours. It was brutal, chaotic, and nothing like the organized naval engagements either side had trained for. The Velkari had superior individual ships, but the humans fought with a ferocity and creativity that the aliens had never encountered. They used debris for cover, fired from unexpected angles, and coordinated their attacks with ruthless efficiency. Commander Ryan reported casualties to Kate. "We've lost the Lightning, the Courage, and the Resolute. The Warrior is heavily damaged and withdrawing. We're down to 8 functional ships." Kate looked at the tactical display. The Valkyrie fleet was in worse shape. 12 of their ships were destroyed, another 15 damaged. But they still had 16 fully operational vessels, and those were starting to reorganize under new commanders. "We can't win a prolonged engagement," Ryan said quietly. "We're outmatched." Kate knew he was right. They had surprised the Valkyrie, hurt them badly, but the aliens were adapting. Soon they would use their numbers and superior firepower to grind down the human fleet. She needed to decide: withdraw and save her remaining ships, or press the attack and try to do as much damage as possible. Then her communications officer called out, "Ma'am, I'm detecting hyperspace signatures. Multiple contacts emerging at the edge of the system." Kate's heart leaped. "Identification?" "It's Admiral Chen's fleet, ma'am. 32 ships. They must have pushed their engines to the limit to get here this fast." On the planet below, Helen Carter watched the battle through telescopes and sensor arrays. She saw the flashes of weapons fire, the explosions of dying ships. She had sent her people into shelters, and now all she could do was watch and pray. When the reinforcements arrived, she allowed herself to hope. Humanity had come to save them. Earth had not abandoned Proxima Centauri. Admiral Chen's fleet entered the battle with fresh ships and full weapons. They had jumped directly into combat range, bypassing all the careful maneuvering that usually preceded space battles. It was a risky move that paid off. The Valkyrie fleet, already battered from fighting Kate's battle group, now found themselves facing a coordinated assault from 2 directions. Chen opened a channel to Kate. "Captain Grant, glad we could make it to the party. What's the situation?" Kate quickly summarized the battle. Chen listened, then smiled grimly. "You've done well. Now let's finish this. All ships engage at will. Show these aliens what happens when they threaten human lives." The tide of battle shifted decisively. The Valkyrie, who had arrived at Proxima expecting an easy victory over primitives, now found themselves fighting for survival. Their ships were better individually, but the humans fought as a coordinated whole. They shared targeting data, covered each other's weaknesses, and exploited every mistake the Valkyrie made. Zrath, aboard his damaged flagship, finally understood the truth. The Galactic Union had not been exaggerating. Humans were dangerous not because they were technologically superior, but because they fought with a combination of intelligence, adaptability, and sheer determination that other species couldn't match. They had turned asteroids into weapons, coordinated ambushes across light seconds of distance, and now they were systematically destroying his fleet. He gave the order he never thought he would need to give. "All ships retreat. Jump to hyperspace immediately." But Kate was not interested in letting them escape. She had watched the Lightning die. She had seen human ships torn apart. And she knew that if the Valkyrie escaped, target their hyperspace engines, she ordered. "Don't let them run." The human fleet concentrated fire on the Valkyrie ships trying to flee. Several made it to hyperspace, jumping away to safety, but many did not. Their engines were damaged or destroyed, leaving them stranded. Some surrendered. Others fought to the last, going down with weapons firing until their reactors failed. When the battle finally ended, 6 Valkyrie ships had escaped. 37 had been destroyed or captured. The human fleet had lost 4 ships with 3 more heavily damaged. It was a costly victory, but it was a victory. Kate stood on the bridge of the Defiance looking at the debris field that now orbited Proxima Centauri. Thousands of people had died today, human and Valkyrie. War had come to humanity, brought by aliens who thought they could take whatever they wanted. Admiral Chen's face appeared on her screen. "Well done, Captain. You held them off until we arrived. Proxima is safe," Kate nodded tiredly. "Thank you, sir. But this isn't over, is it? Those ships that escaped will report back. More will come." Chen's expression was grim. "Probably. But they'll think twice now. And Earth is preparing. By the time the Valkyrie come back, if they come back, we'll be ready." He paused. "Get some rest, Kate. You've earned it." As the channel closed, Kate looked at her crew. News of the battle at Proxima Centauri spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. The 6 Valkyrie ships that had escaped returned to their empire with tales of devastating defeat. They spoke of humans who fought with terrifying creativity, who turned asteroids into weapons and coordinated attacks across impossible distances. They described a species that refused to surrender even when outnumbered, that fought with a ferocity the Velkari had never encountered. In the Velkari capital, the High Council convened an emergency session. General Corvin stood before them, one of the few senior officers to survive the battle. His scales were burned, his body wrapped in medical bandages, but his eyes were clear and his voice was steady. "We lost 37 ships," he reported, "more than half our expeditionary force. The humans destroyed our vessels with tactics we had never seen before. They used nuclear devices hidden in asteroids. They attacked from multiple directions simultaneously. They showed no mercy to ships trying to retreat." One of the council members, an elderly Velkari named Theron, leaned forward. "How is this possible? Our intelligence said the humans were barely capable of interstellar travel. Their ships were smaller, their weapons less advanced." Corvin's expression was bitter. "Our intelligence was incomplete. The humans are indeed less advanced in some areas. Their ships are smaller, their shields weaker, but they fight differently than any species we have encountered. They don't rely on superior technology. They rely on strategy, coordination, and a willingness to sacrifice that borders on madness." Another council member spoke up. "Surely we can defeat them with sufficient numbers. We have hundreds of ships. We can crush this human resistance. At what cost?" Corvin demanded. "We sent 3 battle fleets, our finest ships, our best commanders. The humans destroyed them. If we send more ships, we will lose more ships. And for what? To claim territory that the Galactic Union already warned us to avoid." Theron stood slowly. "You are suggesting we admit defeat? That we accept humiliation from a species that has barely left its own star system?" "I am suggesting we acknowledge reality," Corvin replied. "The Galactic Union created Protocol 7 for a reason. We ignored that warning and paid the price. If we continue this war, we will pay an even higher price. The humans have now been alerted to our existence. They know we are hostile. They will prepare for our return, and they will be ready." The debate continued for hours. Pride warred with pragmatism. The Velkari Empire had built its reputation on conquest, on the idea that strength determined who ruled and who served. To retreat from humans, to admit defeat, would damage that reputation irreparably. But to continue fighting would drain resources and cost lives with no guarantee of victory. While the Velkari argued among themselves, the Galactic Union was having its own emergency session. Elder Coordinator Vess stood before the assembly, her expression more grave than anyone had seen in decades. "Protocol 7 has been broken," she announced. "The Velkari Empire attacked human territory. The humans responded with force and destroyed the Velkari fleet. Both species are now aware of each other's existence. The situation we have worked for millennia to prevent has occurred." Ambassador Trell of the Quinar Collective spoke up. "What is the human response? Are they preparing for war against the entire galaxy?" Vess pulled up a holographic display showing Earth and its surrounding territories. "Our monitoring stations have observed significant military buildup in human space. They are fortifying their colonies, building new warships, and preparing defensive positions. However, they have not moved aggressively beyond their own territory. It appears they are preparing to defend rather than attack." "That is something at least," Trell said. "But we cannot leave this situation unresolved. The humans now know we exist. They know we have been watching them, avoiding them. They will have questions." Another delegate, a crystalline being named Shard, chimed in with a voice like wind through crystal. "Perhaps it is time for direct contact. We cannot hide from humanity any longer. The secret is out. We should attempt communication, establish diplomatic relations before misunderstandings lead to more conflict." The proposal was radical. For 50,000 years, the policy had been clear: avoid humanity at all costs. But that policy was no longer viable. The Velkari had forced the issue, and now the galaxy had to adapt. Vess considered the proposal carefully. "Very well. We will send a diplomatic delegation to Earth. But we must be cautious. We must make it clear that the Galactic Union was not involved in the Velkari attack. We must explain Protocol 7 and why it existed. And we must be prepared for the humans to be angry." On Earth, President Hayes received notification of the incoming delegation with mixed feelings. The battle at Proxima had been won, but at a cost. 4 ships destroyed, hundreds of crew members dead. And the revelation that humanity had been deliberately isolated by a galactic community they didn't even know existed had sparked outrage among the Population. Admiral Lisa Grant sat across from Hayes in the Oval Office. The Galactic Union wants to talk. They say they can explain everything. Hayes rubbed his temples. They've been watching us for thousands of years and never made contact. Now after we're attacked, they suddenly want to talk. I don't trust this. Neither do I, Lisa admitted. But we need information. We need to know how many other species are out there, what technologies they have, what threats we might face. This delegation could provide that information. Hayes nodded slowly. Arrange the meeting, but make it clear that it happens on our terms, in our territory, and make sure we have significant military presence. I want these aliens to understand that we're not victims, we're not primitives, and we will defend ourselves. The meeting was arranged to take place on a space station in Earth orbit. The Galactic Union delegation arrived 2 weeks later, their ship emerging from hyperspace with carefully broadcast signals indicating peaceful intent. They were escorted by 6 human warships, weapons charged but not aimed. Ambassador Trell led the delegation. He was nervous, more nervous than he had been in his 300 years of diplomatic service. He was about to meet with humanity, the species every civilized race had been taught to avoid. He had read the reports from Proxima Centauri, studied the tactical recordings. He knew what humans were capable of when threatened. The meeting room was simple, designed to accommodate different species. Trell and his delegation sat on one side. President Hayes, Admiral Lisa Grant, and Secretary of State Charles Bryant sat on the other. The air was tense. Hayes spoke first. Welcome to Earth. We have questions. Many questions. But let's start with the most important one. Why did you hide from us? Trell took a breath, then began to explain. He told them about Protocol 7, about the ancient encounters with humanity, about the Krell and the Mordani. He explained how every species that had contacted humans had learned to regret it, how humanity's combination of adaptability, aggression, and refusal to accept defeat made them uniquely dangerous. We did not hide from you out of malice, Trell said carefully. We hid from you out of respect and fear. Your species has capabilities that other races find difficult to understand. You are survivors in a way that few species are. You adapt to any challenge. You refuse to give up, and when threatened, you respond with a level of force that is both impressive and terrifying. Charles Bryant leaned forward. So your solution was to isolate us? To let us believe we were alone in the universe? It was thought to be the safest option for everyone involved, Trell replied. If we made contact, there was risk of conflict. If we left you alone, you would develop naturally and perhaps eventually be ready for peaceful interaction. The Velkari didn't follow that policy, Lisa pointed out. Trell's expression showed what humans would interpret as sadness. No, they did not. And they paid a heavy price. The Velkari Empire is in chaos now. The defeat at Proxima has shattered their reputation. Subject worlds are rebelling. Their economy is collapsing. They made an example of themselves, and other species are taking note. Hayes considered this. What happens now? Does the Galactic Union expect us to remain isolated? Do you expect us to pretend we don't know you exist? No, Trell said. That is no longer possible. We are here to offer humanity a place in the Galactic Union. We want to establish diplomatic relations, share technology, engage in trade, but we also want to establish boundaries, rules of engagement, protocols that ensure peace. In other words, you want to control us, Lisa said flatly. Trell chose his words carefully. We want to ensure mutual safety. Humanity is powerful, more powerful than you may realize. If you were to decide to expand aggressively, to conquer other species, you would be very difficult to stop. We want assurance that will not happen. Hayes smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Let me be very clear about something. Humanity did not ask for this war. We did not attack the Velkari. They attacked us. We defended ourselves. That is all we have ever done. We don't want to conquer the galaxy. We want to explore, to learn, to build new homes for our people. But we will not be threatened. We will not be controlled. And we will not allow anyone to attack us without consequences. The meeting continued for hours. Terms were discussed, proposals made, boundaries established. By the end, a framework for peaceful coexistence had been outlined.